there. It's good to see you. It's another Friday, 10 p.m. here in Ghana. Thank you so much for your company. This is Ghana Tonight, and I'm Kemeni Amano. Let's take a look at our top stories. Tonight, President John Dramani Mahama makes more ministerial appointments, bringing the total number of nominees to 25 with 35 more to make up the 60 minister cap he promised. We've got details, but listen, let's also tell you in Nkwanta, in the OT region, and the eastern region's Kota, we know violent clashes have claimed at least 6 lives. I know you saw that. I apologize. But tonight we'll also bring you Ablekuma North and why we cannot collate the election results for that one constituency. I'm so glad you're just in time for the program. But if you'd like to comment on any of the issues that we are discussing or ask questions, remember we are streaming live on TV3, live on 3news.com, 3FM 92.7, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on X.com. Also remember to use the hashtag GhanaTonight. Let's get the show on the road. We'll start with Ghana Brief.
The Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Bagbin, has described the 8th Parliament as the best ever, contrary to other opinions. According to the Speaker, the hanged nature of the House made it possible for members to check abuses of power and the public purse by the executive.
This is one of the best parliaments we ever experienced, where we're able to now change the score for our oversight. We always marked the lowest in West Africa when you're dealing with oversight. When we are dealing with passing laws, because of mob action, you just go in, and it's passed. This one, we took our time and we're able to hold the executive on many issues to account.
The recollation of parliamentary results for the Ablekuma North constituency has been suspended for the 7th time. This is because thugs believed to be supporters of the National Democratic Congress (NDC) besieged the regional office, destroying property and causing chaos at the collation center.
Enti no amunya no mun declare na kesa asomdwe emla 1996 ya lusu ani ekọ ni aba ni lusu ni ekọ 7 times.
The Commission of Human Rights and Administrative Justice (CHRAJ) has cautioned officials in the new government and members of the 9th Parliament to appraise themselves with a code of conduct for public officers enshrined in Chapter 24 of the 1992 Constitution. CHRAJ expressed concern that many public officers either remain unaware of these constitutional requirements or disregard them, leading to unethical behavior and governance challenges. The Ochehene Osajifo Amoitia Oforipeni has destood the Krabwa Kota chief following his alleged involvement in a land deal that led to violence and the tragic death of one person. One person was killed and several others are in critical condition following a violent shootout between land guards and youth at Kota in the Ayenswano district of the Eastern region. In a traditional ceremony, the Apapam Hene and the Amanto Amiensa Hene, Okodiama Apeja Ofori, and a whose jurisdiction Kota falls, led the rite to officially begin the distillment process. Meanwhile, the police say they have restored calm, law and order at Nkwanta in the Oti region after renewed chieftaincy dispute which led to the death of 5 persons. The police, in a statement on Friday, January 17, said the violent clashes led to the destruction of 8 buildings and a shop, while 5 others sustained injuries. A reinforcement team composing of police and military officers were deployed to Nkwanta to restore order. The injured victims are currently receiving treatment at the hospital.
Gonna brief there for you. Coming up now. No election results for Ablekuma North, leaving the lone constituency without an MP. Tonight, the Electoral Commission speaks. Tonight, the Electoral Commission of Ghana accuses the Ghana Police Service of failing to provide adequate security during another attempt to recollate parliamentary results for Ablekuma North constituency. The 7th attempt to collate polling station results was scuttled by party supporters from the constituency. Some properties at the Accra Regional Office, of the Commission, like glass louver blades and air conditioners, were destroyed in the process. Tonight, the Electoral Commission has a lot to let off its chest, and I want to show you. In a statement released in the last few hours, the Electoral Commission has outlined a number of issues, including giving us a bit of a background as to where we began up until now. It starts by saying the High Court ordered the EC on 4th January 2025 to complete collation and declare winners for 4 parliamentary elections. Ablekuma North is the only constituency with collation still pending. The High Court instructed the police to provide security for the EC during collation. It goes on to also talk about some of the issues that they have faced. Collation for Ablekuma North began on 8th January but was halted due to 3 missing polling station results. The EC requested police security to resume collation on 17th January, today that is, at 8 a.m. Today, it says police advised postponement due to security intelligence. What the commission is telling us is when they informed the police that they will organize the exercise again today, the police had told them that based on intelligence they had gathered, it wasn't a wise decision to do, and had advised them to postpone the exercise. But according to the Electoral Commission, despite the police making known that based on their intelligence, it wasn't wise to hold the exercise today at their offices, they failed to augment security at the premises of the Electoral Commission of Ghana. Essentially, what they are saying is whether or not the process took place, knowing that they had the intelligence they had, the police should have augmented security at the offices of the Electoral Commission. But that's not all they say in that statement. And I want to conclude, because they also touch on the issue of the supporters who are gathered there. In the EC statement, they deal specifically with NDC supporters. And this is what they say. NDC supporters, led by the Greater Accra Regional Organizer, invaded the EC's old head office, damaging property. Supporters, including unidentified men in military uniforms, also stormed the EC's new head office, causing staff to flee. The EC urged police to identify arrests and prosecutes the perpetrators using available video evidence. The EC appealed also in that statement to the government and the police to support in ensuring security and completion of the Ablekuma North collation. Remember that in that statement by the Electoral Commission, the focus had been on the NDC supporters. The natural question then will be, why were the NDC supporters gathered there for this process? They were uninvited to start with. But here's what we know from the supporters who spoke to our cameras, that it may have been much more than NDC supporters. Take a listen.
Here during the last collation, it's over 1 week now. It's 10 days. Could you believe the EC has not called us to even engage us? We raised serious questions the last time because we have their own returning officers saying the pink sheet that was produced to them was fake, was forgery. What did the EC say about it? We had their returning officer, the same returning officer with 2 different signatures. We raised that concern. They didn't say anything. We have their one Nathaniel, their own PO, who said when he met the returning officer, he did not confirm the figures on the pink sheets. Yet the returning officer went ahead and recorded those figures on the collation form. These are questions we need genuine answers.
Mr. Musa, okay.
The way forward is the court directed the EC to come and recollate. You know you do not have a single pink sheet. How are you going to do that recollation?
So you want us to have a entire election?
62, because we will never accept for the EC to use MPP scanned pink sheets for recollation.
Okay, finally, before I let you go, it's like your men are still here. Won't you allow them to retire? Why are they still here?
So the EC communicated to us to be here 8 o'clock. As at now, they've still not told us anything. We've not heard anything from them. That is our problem. So we'll be here till close of day 5 o'clock.
So, Mr.
Now, take note of that last comment from Musa. The Electoral Commission in their own statement admitted that the process was to begin 8 a.m. today, 17th January. Musa corroborates that and says they didn't just come there uninvited. The Electoral Commission had invited them for the process today at 8 a.m. I apologize also that we are unable to bring you that soundbite where the NDC supporters indicates that the reason supporters were also there is because the NPP supporters had already taken lead in the building. Now, our reporter does not tell us that we do not have knowledge of that, but that is what the NDC supporters say drew them there. Now, let's get more from this. Dr. Rashid Tanko Computer is Director of Elections and IT for the NDC. He's joining us for more on this subject. Doc, I appreciate you talking to us today. The situation the Electoral Commission paints is that your supporters came there uninvited. Time without number, you have indicated that the NDC was not taking part in this process. Are you able to reconcile the both, the two positions to us tonight?
Yeah, Kemeni, let me say good evening to you and your cherished viewers. And let me correct this. I am the Deputy National Director of Elections and IT, Indeed. Not the director itself.
Indeed,
Dr. Omanibama is the director.
Absolutely.
Very well. You see, all these problems we are going through is as a result of the lawless nature of the Electoral Commission. They are the cause of all this mess. And I'm surprised we are not calling them out. Look, they are behaving as if they are law unto themselves. And therefore, they can just get up and do their lawless activities, and Ghanaians don't see anything wrong with it. Don't forget, look, just take a read of their statement they issued. Mm-hmm. This court thing that they are referring to, we're all in court when the judgment was made. What did we do? We quickly filed a stay of execution and an appeal against the ruling by the trial judge. And they were served. The Electoral Commission was served. They are aware of the process we filed. We went further to file another process at the Supreme Court so that these actions will stay. so that they will go through it, because we had difficulties with the trial judge of the High Court. The ruling was like he was making a ruling of a case, an application of sort, just as an application of the sort, not a mandamus. Mm-hmm. Okay, that was our problem, because he was supposed to rule on the mandamus, but he went further to make a ruling as if an election petition application was before him. So we filed a stay of execution and an appeal against it. That is the problem we have with EC. Yet this EC defied all these processes, went ahead to illegally declare 3 of the constituencies for MPP. We were on a part, because we cannot file this process and still go and participate in illegal activities. But they are bent on making sure that they will rule Ablekuma North for the MPP. Even at IPAC meeting, when they told us they don't have pink sheets, easy, that they don't have pink sheets, all their pink sheets were destroyed. The MPP themselves, led by Evans, their director of elections, told us they don't have pink sheets, that they have scanned copies. And we say we don't use scanned copies in dealing with our matter. Nobody uses scanned copy. So they shouldn't come and be talking about scanned copy, because I can design a pink sheet on my laptop and put figures on it and bring it as scanned copies. Is that what we want in our electoral system? So we told them they should stop that issue of the scanned copy they are mentioning. Little did we know that they are collaborating with Electoral Commission to cook figures on their scanned copies and use it to declare the MPP woman as a
Doc, how were they doing that? Remember that the outstanding constituency, the outstanding polling stations is only a few pink sheets that the POs have rejected and said it is not their work. So how are you drawing the conclusion that the NPP is in collusion with the Electoral Commission to rig the collation?
Emily, the POs came there and rejected the pink sheets brought by the NPP. Where did they get them from? Where did they get them from? That is the question we should be asking them. So when I said they are colluding with EC to rig the election, were they not exposed by their own POs? Their own presiding officers exposed them big time, because they had sat somewhere, booked the figures, manufactured a pink sheet, and put the figures on it. Yet their POs came and saw it and said, no, this one is not my signature. This one is not my pink sheet.
I see.
They were embarrassed. With all these things they are doing, why is the EC bent on rigging the election for MPP? Look, today, incident, Ghanaians should blame the Electoral Commission for causing all this mess in this country through this problem that they are doing. And we are calling on the government of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama to call the Electoral Commission to order. As a political party, NDC, we are calling on the government to call them to order, because we, as a party, we will sit aloof and allow this EC to continue that kind of illegality they are doing.
The commission, on the other hand, is blaming your supporters for destruction of properties at their offices. How does that come to you?
Emily, how can they blame the NDC when they are the cause of all these problems? You see how they are. That's why I'm saying the government must call them to order. Because you were advised that, look, this thing that you are doing, the matter is in court. Come, let's litigate the matter in court. We have this matter before the trial judge. We have the matter before the Supreme Court. Why are they in a haste to conclude a matter that is still pending in court? Are they not lawless people?
Very well, Doc.
This is complete lawless institution. And that's why they are involved. So they are the cause of this mess.
Doc, we'll leave our conversation here. Thank you so much. Dr. Rashid Tanko Computers, Deputy Director of Elections and IT for the NDC. We'll stay on this subject because the lawlessness has become a point of interest for us here on Ghana Tonight. We want to engage some security minds on this subject because, again, this appears to be much more chaotic than even the actual elections that took place more than a month ago. And so we're trying to find out, how should this be dealt with? to forestall further deterioration of the situation. We can now bring in some of our security experts at this point, if that's okay. My understanding is our security people. Dr. Victor Doke is a security expert. He's joining us for a quick conversation on the back of this. Doc, quickly, when you look at that letter the Electoral Commission wrote, or more like a statement that he released in the last few hours of the evening, they indict the police service. How do you respond to this? What do you see there?
Well, thank you very much. You used the word lawlessness, and that is exactly what has happened. Even with our institutions, one that is mandated to oversee the elections and one that is supposed to ensure the security of staffs and then the process, there seems to be lack of coordination. The general perception I have is people have a sense of the fact that they may not be in office very soon. So there's some kind of relaxed attitude towards providing security and ensuring the process goes on. That's the way I see it. Now, with regards to the letter, the EC stating that per the court order, the police is supposed to provide security, and the police informing the EC that based on intelligence, the exercise should be put on hold. Any institution or head of institution that has been advised that per intelligence that an exercise should be put on hold, maybe they didn't tell the EC officials the gravity of the situation with regards to the intelligence they had picked up. If they did and the EC ignored and wanted more personnel to be posted to the head office, well, the police would weigh the options. If they post more men to the place and then the situation gets out of hand, it's either the policemen will be harmed, there may be firing of weapons, civilians will be hurt. So the police may have thought it wise not to even augment the personnel set. But in any case, one of the mandates is to protect lives and property. So even if you picked up intelligence, the onus lies on you to reinforce the area. And that is the right thing to do. Because once you've picked up intelligence that is something in the offing, you reinforce, because this is a state institution, a very important one at that.
Right.
Where information and data is stored and the process has to go on. So I think with regards to that one, the police is at fault in some sense because they were supposed to augment and barricade the whole place.
Whether or not the exercise was taking place.
Whether or not the exercise was taking place, because you were mandated to protect the property itself. If the exercise is not coming on and you've picked intelligence that there's something in the offing, you protect the place to ensure that essential information is protected. Properties are protected, and they didn't do that.
Right, Doc. Going forward, how do we prevent this situation from further escalating? Because as I noted earlier, it would appear that this is becoming, this lone constituency, the coalition effort is becoming much more chaotic than even during the voting exercise itself or the early days after the voting. What are your thoughts on how we can prevent escalation of this situation?
Number one, let's get ahead of the political parties, the two main political parties. The reason why I say the two main political parties is now it's very difficult to determine whether it's only the NDC supporters who went on rampage there or there are NPP supporters who went there per the narrative that you earlier gave, that somebody else gave, that they had NPP supporters went there first before. Now, criminal elements have had the opportunity to be involved in all of this, and we cannot allow this to happen. So one, the two political parties must issue statements condemning this act and then issuing a warning. 3, the police, with regards to CCTV and evidence, pick up all those in the video, arrest them. Investigation should be done. If they are found culpable, they must face the law. And under no circumstances that those who are arrested will be let go because of what? Their political affiliation or because their party is in government. You cannot have that. And then Mr. President should issue a statement on this through his spokesperson. The police should call for reinforcement and then coordinate with the military if need be to ensure that the next exercise will be peaceful. And with regards to that, once they call for reinforcement, they will definitely map out a strategy to barricade and reinforce the area, that no civilians would even have access miles, meters to the coalition place.
Very well. Doc, we'll end the chat on this, but hold the line for me because I want to pick your thoughts on something else a little later. Right now, let's put a very keen focus on the activities of the President, John Dramani Mahama. This week, it's been appointments, it's also been travels, and there's been some disappointments. That's coming up now. This week in appointments, President John Dramani Mahama added on to his list of ministerial nominees, now standing at 25, less than half of what he promised during campaign. This number leaves room for 35 more ministers and maybe deputy ministers. And I want to stay on that subject just before I bring in what other things or events have taken place surrounding the president. Now, if you look on your screen, the 60 is the number the president promised. So far, he's made 25 appointments, and it leaves room for 35 more. Well, let's take a look at the next slide. We know that of the appointments he's made, 12 of those appointments are to ministries or ministries of state, so to speak. Now, these are the outstanding ministries: Health Ministry, Defense Ministry, Interior Ministry, Foreign Affairs, Transport, Sports and Recreation, Lands and Natural Resources, Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation, Environment, Science and Technology, Works, Housing and Water Resources, Labor, Jobs and Employment. Remember that by executive instrument, the president had reduced the number of ministries from 30 to 23. Of that 23, he's appointed 12. But we have said here that the total number is 25. So where are the others coming from? Those are regional ministers. 13 out of 16 regions now have regional ministers designates. The outstanding regions, Bono East and Upper West region. Now, here's the gender breakdown of the president's appointments. Of the appointments made so far, 18 are men, 7 are women, and the women representation is about 28%, very close to the affirmative action requirement of 30%. It looks like when you put the entire appointments together, the president may be going above that. But when it comes to ministerial appointments, the president might need 11 more women to be appointed to be able to hit that 30% mark for female appointments out of the 60 ministers. But, you know, appointments isn't the only thing the president has been doing. I'll give you more on that gender breakdown a little later. We also know that President John Dramani Mahama took a trip to the Gambia, where he engaged with his counterpart, Adama Barrow. Prior to that was a meeting in Accra with Malian Prime Minister Abdoulaye Maiga. Overall, it's been a very busy week for President Mahama. So let's have a chat on this very eventful week. Well, my understanding is we do not have our next guest yet, but we should be joined by the acting spokesperson for the president in Etihad. Let's have a conversation on the president's first working visit outside the country. He went to the Gambia. It's been a very insightful trip to the Gambia. Our presidential affairs correspondent has been reporting. He's been reporting that the president held a private meeting at the State House of the Gambia where they expressed mutual satisfaction with the expansion of friendly relations and cooperation between the Gambia and Ghana. Now, both leaders have pledged to further strengthen bilateral relations and maximize efforts to facilitate the free movement of goods. They also discussed the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Commission processes, the importance of bringing individuals to justice and securing funds to compensate victims. Conversation for another day. But let's bring in now Felix Kwache Ofosu. He's acting spokesperson for the president. Felix, good evening to you. I appreciate you talking to us.
Yeah, good evening.
Indeed. Felix, let's start off quickly with these appointments. We've seen fake lists of appointments. You yourself have posted on socials about that. If the appointment list isn't coming from you, then it sure is fake. But has the presidency managed to determine where these lists are coming from for such a sensitive matter?
Well, unfortunately, the matter of fake news and the generation of sale has almost become part and parcel of our body politic and our everyday life. As unfortunate as it is, one would have thought that the persons behind this acts would realize the enormous damage they do to the image and credibility of individuals whom they target for this sort of activity. They perhaps may also be minded to know that it is actually an offense to put out information that you know to be false with a view to causing mischief. I'm sure that it is a matter that the security agencies would want to look into with a view to ensure that the corporates are brought to book. But at this stage, the president is more focused on assembling his government within the time frame that he committed to do so in the NDC manifesto. And that is precisely what he has been doing.
I see. Felix, we know that President Mahama has 35 more ministerial appointments to make. By practice, we have had at least a deputy minister for each ministry. Where is the president's mind when it comes to deputy ministerial positions? What is his strategy to make the 60?
Well, let me indicate that the president meant every word when he pledged in the run-up to the election that he was going to install Ghana's leanest government under the Fourth Republic. He was the first to put a specific number to the number of ministers that he was going to have, and he said he would have 60. So by the time that he's done appointing the ministers concerned, he would have kept his promise to have up to 60 ministers within his government. So he intends to do that. And by the time that this is over, you will find that he has kept that promise.
Are we likely to see some ministries go without deputies?
Well, it will not be surprising to see that that is the case, because it is obvious that there are some ministries that may not necessarily require a deputy for the place to function effectively. And as and when the president finds it necessary to do so, he will not hesitate.
This week, the president has had to give some attention to a number of security matters. Boko, tonight we're hearing about Nkwanta and Kota in the Ayenswano district of the Eastern region. In the last few hours, or excuse me, in the last few minutes, we've heard the Electoral Commission call on the president to call supporters to order and also encourage the Ghana Police Service to provide security for the adequate security for the Electoral Commission. Your own party's Deputy Director of Electoral Commission, the Deputy Director of Elections and IT, is also called on the president to call the Electoral Commission to order. Your response to some of these calls that we're hearing, quickly.
Well, I think that this is really a law and order issue, and it is the duty of the Ghana Police Service to ensure that an atmosphere of peace and congeniality is created for the Electoral Commission to do its work. That said, the Electoral Commission itself must appreciate the sensitivity of the work that they are doing, and therefore must act in a manner that fosters the peace, rather than provoke people to engage in actions that may breach the peace. That is not to endorse in any way, shape, or form acts of lawlessness or violence. And we believe that the Ghana Police Service has capacity to deal with any breach of the peace. And I will be surprised if it do not take requisite action to enforce law and order. Regarding the unfortunate eruption of violence in Nkwanta, as I had cause to indicate this morning through a tweet and a Facebook post, the security chiefs are on top of the situation. Initial investigations into the cause of the clashes have revealed that it has its root cause in rather protracted chieftaincy dispute. The immediate response was to send in security personnel to restore calm. So calm has been restored, except that it was determined that more personnel would be required to give further steel to the efforts to enforce law and order. And that is precisely what the security chiefs are doing. And so we expect that in the next few hours, total calm will be restored to Nkwanta, even as efforts are made to broker some peace and ensure that the dispute is resolved conclusively.
The president, one of the first things that the president did was to set up his interim security coordinating task force of sort. One would have thought that by now would have, the ministers designate for areas like the interior and defense to take care of issues like this. But we don't have those now. What's the holdup?
Well, in the next few days, those nominations will be made, and then it will be up to Parliament to speedily and in an expeditious manner, with all the dispatch that they can muster, vet the nominees and have them approved so that they can take up position. But the absence of the interior or defense ministers has not impeded the ability of the security agencies to do their work. President Mahama anticipated that up until when nominations are done and the respective ministers are inducted to office, there was going to be a vacuum. So he preempted that. Even before he was sworn in formally, he set up a security task force made up of very experienced security minds who held the fort, of course, in constant liaison with the then outgoing government. Immediately, the president took over the reins of government. He installed a team that had responsibility for managing Ghana's security architecture until such time that the various heads of the security agencies, that is the ministries of Interior, Ministry of Defense, National Security, and what have you, are in place. Only a couple of days ago, I had cause to put out a statement on the instructions of the president, nominating a national security advisor and a national security coordinator and a BNI chief, or if you like, sorry, the NIB Director General, I should say, who have primary responsibility to ensure that the peace of Ghana is maintained and that security is ensured And so far, they are doing a good job. They have responded timeously to the situation in Nkwanta. And by and large, it has been brought under control. I have been in touch all day with the National Security Advisor and the National Security Coordinator, and they have briefed us on exactly what they are doing. And so far, we find the steps they've taken satisfactory. So we expect that peace will return to Nkwanta, even as efforts are made, as I said, to resolve the root cause, which is a chieftaincy dispute. I don't think that the absence of a defense minister at this stage and an interior minister at this stage, all of it does not rest in the hands of the president entirely. Because even if you were to nominate them today,
right,
there would be some time between the nomination and the time that Parliament finishes vetting them and approves them and they are sworn into office. But all that will be done in a matter of days. And we hope that things go as planned so that they can take office and then augment in a substantive way the work that the current duty bearers are doing in that regard.
Indeed, Felix, how then do you react to reports reaching us that despite the police visibility in the area, Twobodom is experiencing some gunshots have been heard in Twobodom, so to speak. Has this come to your notice?
Well, I'm here to be briefed on the exact situation in Twobodom, but I expect that adequate measures will be put in place to contain whatever situation there is. But as and when I have a specific briefing on it, I'm more than willing to share it.
Indeed. Then we also know of the president's engagement with the West African community. Yesterday was the Malian Prime Minister here in the country. Today we know he's on a working visit to the Gambia. By the way, has he returned to the country yet?
He should be in the country in a moment.
I see. Is there a foreign policy strategy to the president's apparent interest in the West African community?
Well, the president noted in his inaugural address that Ghana was prepared to ensure a good neighborliness and peaceful coexistence within the West African sub-region. Unfortunately, this is a sub-region that has known some turmoil in the recent past. In the last 2 years or so, there have been some military takeovers in some countries. Critics may say that it rolls back the gains that had been made initially in the advancement of democracy in the sub-region. But it is important, no matter the political situation in member states in the West African sub-region, for all countries within the region to live peacefully, devoid of acrimony or frosty relations or hostilities. And so, as a country that has gained enormous international respect for the entrenchment of democracy and the way that we have been able to oversee peaceful transfers of power on a number of occasions, it is important that we take a step towards deepening relations with our neighbors and at all times seeking peaceful coexistence. President Obama was inducted into office barely a week ago, and he has made an effort, even before he was formally sworn in, to visit as many of our neighbors as possible, to assure them of Ghana's continuous high regard and our willingness to work closely with them to maintain the peace within the West African sub-region. Only yesterday, as you indicated, the Malian Prime Minister delivered a special message from the Malian president, who was unable, unfortunately, because of prior commitments, to honor President Obama's invitation to witness his inauguration. He sent in his stead the Malian Prime Minister, who yesterday paid a courtesy call on President Obama to deliver a special message from his boss, the Malian president. The discussions were fruitful, and it pointed to a strengthening of the relations between Ghana and Mali. President Obama indeed recalled historically strong ties between Ghana and Mali during the era of Ghana's first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. This signals a certain long-standing bond of friendship between the two. And therefore, I was not surprised that the discussions were as smooth and as successful as they were. President Obama has continued the shuttle diplomacy by going to Gambia and Senegal today, all in an effort to boost the relations among the three countries.
Let's talk about those relations, because one country you did not mention is Burkina Faso. Some have raised questions about the president's ties with the Burkinabe leader, Captain Traore. How is the presidency responding to those who think that the president is frolicking with coup leaders?
First of all, despite our democratic credentials, I think that the ultimate objective that informs any foreign policy is the national interest. It is in our interest at this moment, and I dare say at all times, to have peaceful relations with our neighbors, especially a neighbor with whom we share historical bonds and ties. There are cross-border relations between the people who live on either side of the border. And we have economic relations that are very important to the economies of both countries. So it is important that at all times we maintain peace. Of course, an argument can be made about efforts to restore democracy in Burkina Faso or any other part of the West African sub-region that is currently not experiencing democracy. But it does not preclude member states of the West African sub-region from seeking peaceful relations. So the kind of government that a country has or a neighbor has should not result in frosty relations. But Ahmad does not believe in having frosty relations with neighbors simply because a government that takes a different form from what we have here is in place there. Yes, it is ideal that there's democracy everywhere, but the circumstance of every country is different. So if at this moment, the situation in Burkina Faso or Mali or Niger is not like what we have in Ghana, it does not mean that we should be at loggerheads with our neighbors, given how closely we are related with them over the period. So I think that in summary and in answer to your question, the kind of government in Burkina Faso does not matter as much as the kind of relations that we have with them, to the extent that it is beneficial to both countries. That is what informs President Mohammed's foreign policy. Ultimately.
I see. This trip to the Gambia, why did the president travel on Jatta private jet?
Well, I'm sure you are aware, as if you didn't need a reminder, that President Mohammed is the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces. Since he became president, he has requested for a detailed report of the state of the communication squadron. The communication squadron is a unit within the Air Force that handles the presidential aircraft. So he has requested that they give him a brief on the state of the unit itself, that's the communication squadron, the planes under their control and what have you. That report is here to show time. So pending the receipt of that report to determine the state of the aircraft and what have you, the president has been traveling the same way he was traveling in opposition. He has been using the Jatta jets since he was in opposition. But the most critical point that must be made is that this alternative arrangement has not in any way, shape or form cost the Ghanaian taxpayer a dime. President Mahama is mindful of the precarious economic situation we are in, and therefore is minded to utilize public funds in the most prudent of ways. So he is not about to dole out millions of Ghana cedis, as used to be the case in the very recent past under the previous government, to rent expensive aircraft to sit in. This aircraft has been available to him since his days in position. He has used it. Indeed, some of the visits that I referred to in the immediate aftermath of his election as president in December 2024 were undertaken with this aircraft. It has not led to any cost whatsoever to the Ghanaian taxpayer. But President Mahama is committed to using the presidential jet as soon as he gets the all clear from the communication squadron I beg your pardon, of the Ghana Air Force.
Felix, is this private jet the president's personal property?
Everybody knows that the private jet belongs to Mr. Ibrahim Mahama, who is a well-known businessman, whose businesses predates the coming into office of his brother, President Mahama. This jet is well known to everybody as his property. President Mahama only uses it as and when it is available. It was available for this trip, and that's why he's using it. But as I have been at pains to point out all night, it has not come at any cost whatsoever to the Ghanaian taxpayer. If it were the case that the presidential aircraft was in pristine condition, and President Mahama was wasting the taxpayers' money by renting alternative aircraft. Then,
hello, Felix. Well, we're going to rework the lines and bring Felix back on, but the issue of the private jet has caught the attention of some security people in this country, because remember, it's not just the money, but it's also about how secure our very first gentleman is, flying the Jetta private jet. Let's take that conversation now to Dr. Victor Doke. Doc, these are germane issues to raise about the use of the Jetta private jet for national assignments, aren't they?
Well, I heard the acting spokesperson, Mr. Felix Kwachiofusu, stating that the Air Force, directly the squadron unit, has not brought the report yet. Now, first of all, I have very pertinent questions. One, the president, immediately he was sworn in, or even before he was sworn in, after declaration of results, the Air Force should have made available the report even before it was requested. That is being proactive, than to wait for the president to ask for the report on the state of the aircraft before use.
Right.
But the president had to ask for the report, and from the acting spokesperson's narratives, the report is yet to get to the president. I am wondering how long it takes for a report on assessment to be done on a plane for the president to know whether it's in good condition or not. Now, the other question I want to raise is, did the Air Force provide a pilot to fly the private jet or not? And if they did they assess the plane with regards to whether it is safe to be flying in his brother's aircraft, assuming he is an enemy to someone else? That aircraft can be a target. So then it means that our first gentleman is not safe to be flying in his brother's private jet. Was there an assessment? Did the Air Force give a clear?
But Doc, Felix's position is that the president has been using the jet for a while now, even before he was sworn in. So it would appear that the issue of safety and security is dealt with, because it is not the first time he's using it.
Well, if he was using this plane before becoming the president, it's two different issues we are talking about here. Okay? You're using those times. And I would have loved for the spokesperson to tell us how many times, to where and where, that the president went to, okay, that he used the plane. Then we can make further assessment and ask further questions. Now,
Doc, I'm afraid we're out of time on this subject. We'll find a different time to raise it again, but I appreciate you staying on the line all this while for us to pick up on this. Dr. Victor Doke is a security analyst. When we come back from this break, let's give you an update on the Nkwanta chaos in the OT region and the latest from Kota in the eastern region.
You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint, superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint. simply
Step up with DSTV and we'll show up by giving you more incredible entertainment.
We're going to have a little fun.
Upgrade your subscription between the 13th of January and the 31st of March and get an even higher package for a whole month on us.
Buckle up, here we go.
There's nothing better than putting a little bit in but getting a lot out.
Time to boost some office morale.
Incredible!
When you want to build a future, you gotta know what you want.
Step up and we'll show up on your home of entertainment, DSTV.
Through every step of life's unpredictable journey, every moment counts. That's why you need a partner you can always trust for solutions, so you can be rest assured. Having impacted over 200,000 lives, processed over 4.2 million claims, partnered with over 400 corporations, paid out over 836 million Ghana cedis in claims, contract over 1,600 healthcare facilities nationwide.
Fresh gunfire heard in Nkwanta in Oti region after renewed clashes already killed 5 people. Meanwhile, one dead in Kota in the eastern region. All you need to know tonight. Well, let's get into that now. Tonight, Ochehene Osajefo Amwetie for Repenyin has destood the Krabwa Kota chief. This follows the chief's alleged involvement in a land deal gone bad that resulted in the death of 1 person. Several others are in critical condition due to gunfire exchange between land guards and youths at Kota in the Ayenswano district of the eastern region. For more on this, we're joined by Yvonne Nikwe, who is our eastern region correspondent. Yvonne, good evening. How would you describe Kota tonight, Yvonne?
Good evening, Kamari. Kota is relatively peaceful than 24 hours ago when the violence incident occurred. Now, per the pronouncement from Ochehene, really the residents there are now happy, knowing well that they could return back to their farms and then their children could to school, God willing, on Monday, because today they did not go to school. Some schools have to be closed down because of the tension in the community. Did you also know that police patrol teams go to the community to ensure that they don't have any reprisal attack from the section that have been relieved of the school?
I see. So we'll take it as the distillment has brought the situation to an end?
Largely, we could say that the distillment has brought the situation to a very minimal level. Now, we do know that these lands, Otenhene has a allodial ownership of it. And so any staff chief who must engage in any business must seek his consent. If he says that he has distilled you don't have his mandate again, it means that you cannot act on his behalf in your community. So largely, it means that the chief has no right to engage in any business with anybody to give out lands for either stand wheeling or any development purposes. And so this brings the matter to an end, as the police would have to continue its investigation to ensure that those who have caused any crime, shot people to death, are brought to book.
Very well, Yvonne, I appreciate you talking to us tonight. But speaking on the subject of clashes and shootings, let's turn attention to Nkwanta, where we understand fresh gunfire has been heard in Twobodom area of the Nkwanta township, despite security reinforcement in the municipality. Already 5 people have been killed in the renewed chieftaincy clashes there. In the last few hours, police statement indicated calm had been restored, but tonight it's unclear who is firing the latest gunshots. Earlier, clashes led to burning of 8 houses and a shop. 5 individuals were injured, while hundreds others have fled for safety. Earlier also, President John Dramani Mahama ordered police reinforcement to the area to ensure peace. Tonight, police have confirmed reinforcement efforts, but the situation remains fluid. Let's check in now with our Volta and Oti region correspondent, Faisal Abdul-Idrisu. Faisal, what else can you report? What has the police said about what has the police said really about this Twobodom situation, if any at all?
Well, so the Twobodom situation, I am told, happened somewhere around 4 p.m. this evening. It didn't really last beyond 10 minutes. It was some shot fired within a very short period. We are not able to tell whether the shots were fired by the police or the indigents. Now, the Twobodom area we are talking about has become a hotspot since these clashes, the latest, the recent ones. This very one is the most tense one, I'm told, by residents. The Twobodom area is actually a heterogeneous area within the municipality, but almost at the outskirts towards the Shiari and Kerry areas, which are largely dominated by the Achode people. The Twobodom area itself, just as I mentioned, you go there, you find Kokombes, you find Dagombes, you find the Achode group themselves in there. And Monday, 13th, even before the clash started somewhere yesterday, I am told that some Muslims had gone to bury somebody. Just when they returned for prayers after the burial, some 3 unidentified men came over to fire gunshots that created panic and almost dispersed the mourning crowd at the time. Then that was Monday, before things actually got out of hand on Thursday. As to how these 2 incidents are linked, we are not able to tell, but it remains very confirmed that the area now has been called. Some residents are telling me that the Twobodom area now is being called as Gaza. Some people call it Ukraine.
I see.
Because, yes, just because it's becoming a very hot spot as far as these clashes in Nkwanta is concerned. Today, for instance, just around 3 p.m., all shops had to be closed because, like I mentioned earlier, in our earlier reports, I mentioned to you that since October last year, the Nkwanta Township has been under curfew starting from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. So for this evening, just around 3 p.m., because of the latest clashes, the shops had to close. There were no human activity between that period till now.
Indeed.
It's been a very quiet, dead town.
Faisal, I'm afraid we'll have to end our chat on Nkwanta here unfortunately, we can't go any further. Thank you so much, Faisal Abdul-Idrisu, Volta Oti Regions correspondent. But listen, there'll be more on this story and many others we have discussed here in later broadcasts over the weekend. But remember, the Saturday morning 7, Alfredo Kanse will be here with his panelists for key points. On Sunday, I sit down with the first Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Akachi South MP, Bernard Ahiafo. He speaks for the first time as to how the vetting was so disorderly. He will also talk about his leadership and whether or not, as many of you have described him as being weak, he responds to that as well. I have to run, but it's always a pleasure coming your way with Ghana Tonight. Thank you so much for your company. I'll see you same time next week. Join me on Sunday at 2 p.m. for Hot Issues. Bye-bye.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.